And we're live. Howdy, everybody. This is me. I'm here with Prayin'N'Squatchin, episode 11. Hard to believe I'm already up to that. Got B.C Davis from Eastern Arkansas. He's from I think you said Bald Knob area.
That's it.
All right. I'll give you a minute there to introduce yourself to everybody while I'm copy pasting links and stuff here.
Well, I've spent most of my life here, and I got into this crazy cryptozoological thing about 2.5 years ago, just for something to do. I'd watched Les Stroud's Bigfoot episodes, and I was just sitting around one day, and I was thinking, if I was a Sasquatch around, where would I live around here? So I figured out the areas, and I contacted people I've known in most cases for decades, and just asked them, somebody, people I feel I could approach them with this topic, and I asked people. These most of them were classmates that lived in these areas, and I was, I couldn't believe what I was being told. I didn't expect anything really. Maybe one or two offhand sightings of maybe they saw something, maybe they didn't, but the stories and the sightings and experiences people have related to me since then is just it just boggles the mind. You just walking around, driving around town or whatever. Never in a million years would I've ever thought this sort of thing was going on in this area.
I understand. If you listen to reports and accounts and everything, 9 out of 10 witnesses didn't believe it in it until they ran right into it. Hunters, truck drivers, whoever.
Yes. Matter of fact, there was a man that saw one late spring, early summer last year by the lake here in town, and he said he was taking left to go up this hill, and he saw two cats run out. But what struck him as odd is that instead of going on across the road, they made a left and went straight uphill. Then he saw this white one. And then he saw, it looked like to him, as he related to me, it looked like it just went straight up in the air on its own. And then it's like, what the heck? And then that's when it stepped out and it had that poor cat. So the whole thing lasted maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds. But the two details he gave me is that he was brown with gray hair and approximately 9 feet tall. But again, it was just a second and a half, 2 seconds. And when he was relaying this to me, which was like the next day or 2 days later, he was getting nervous when he was talking about it. It shook him up because he was somebody that thought they could exist, but apparently didn't give it much thought. Then he saw one, and that's really changed him, as it would anyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's almost I wouldn't call it the stereotypical, but 9 out of 10 reports, people say this changed me. It changed how I looked at the world, how I looked at reality life. It's a life altering. I haven't had the face on like class A encounter yet. I've had partial sightings. I haven't had that what I call come to Jesus moment when you're looking right at one.
No, I haven't either. But I'm the more I got into this, I started recalling some incidents in my life or experiences I had that wasn't anything I obsessed over, but for whatever reason it crossed my mind. And oh, hang on here, let me gather my thoughts. Somebody messaged me that threw me off. Incidents in my life that I thought about, said, "Oh, that was weird," and now I think I was pretty close to them. And there's just one area to the west of me that all these dang apps.
Are you still there? Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here. Just having some technical issues on this end. So and I've had talking to Wendell Burroughs earlier. I've told him and about some experiences, and he thinks I got hit with infrasound. And from what I've read and other people, other podcasts and people's experiences, I think there's a very distinct possibility that at least on 3 occasions that I was hit with infrasound. The first one in this area that's like a mile and a half to my west, an area I had played in for years. Myself and a whole bunch of others in my generation would go out there, an area we called the Cliffs. And, I never thought anything about it, never felt anything weird. Been out there by myself a few times, but this one time I went out there, and the first thing I noticed is that, and it's hard to explain, but you know how sound will travel. Like you throw a rock or you kick a rock. Well, when I did it, I threw a rock. I can't remember if I threw it or kicked it or whatever, but the sound didn't travel. That just like really strange. It just like almost like a thud. And I was overcome with this feeling of I need to get out of here. I need to leave. Just get out of here. So I left, and I didn't go back until 1989. And my father, who has since passed away, told me that the cliffs had collapsed. There was a rock quarry nearby, and I guess some blasting. It was all mostly stacked sandstone, so it wasn't too surprising. But I just had to go see it for myself. So I was on Christmas break from college, and so it's December of '89, which is important. But so I took a double-barrel 16-gauge shotgun with me and walked down there because I knew then don't go out in the woods unarmed, because I'm thinking bear, coyote, feral dogs, what have you. So anyway, I get there and I start down the trail, and off to my left, I hear some footsteps. Now I know the difference between something on 2 legs and something on 4. Just by the cadence and rhythm of their walk, or their steps rather. So I heard steps, and I'm like, probably somebody else out here, which wasn't unusual. And I walked down, heard them again. I'm like, So finally, the third time I heard, I stopped and yelled out, "Hey, look, I got a gun. Just let me know where you're at so I don't shoot in your direction." No reply. So I walked down, and I got down to the creek, and I was just looking up at what used to be the cliffs, heard steps behind me. I turned around, heard the steps again, but here's the weird thing. I'm looking at right where the steps are coming from, and I don't see a thing. I can't explain it, but at the very next second, I was just overcome with this feeling of dread and terror. Just picture like air raid sirens and Star Trek Red Alert and police sirens all going off in your head at once. And it just scared the dickens out of me, and I just started shooting in that direction. And you'd be surprised how quick somebody can fire and reload a double barrel shotgun when they're really scared. So I popped off 6 rounds, I think, and just held there for a second. And I didn't hear the steps, but if it had been a person, they would have ran, hollered back, or if they had a gun, they might have shot back. Or if there's any other, like a deer or something, they'd have took off, but nothing left. There was no steps, and I started going back up. Heard them again, and I'm constantly firing all the way up. I got in there. December. Let me back up. There was no foliage. All the leaves were off the trees. Just a few evergreen shrubs and some cedars, but everything else, leaves had already dropped. So I had a clear view of where I'm looking at, and again, I didn't see anything. I got in there and left, and it's now 2021, and I haven't been back to that area since, and don't think I will.
I can't blame you. Now, you didn't see anything? You didn't see what we hear in other reports, the cloaking, shimmering,
no, nothing.
predator effect, or
nothing. I didn't know to look for that, but I remember looking right at where the steps are coming from, and nothing. And that's when I really got scared. I don't know. Probably just me getting scared, but it also could have been I got hit with infrasound or a combination thereof. But I know I beat a hasty, loud retreat out of there and hadn't went back since.
Like I said, nobody can blame me for that. That's not, to me, that's not fear. That's common sense / healthy respect. You're being
Yeah.
stalked or paced by something you can't see.
Yeah, that was
I don't
it.
know. At that point, I don't know if it needs infrasound to scare you out.
No, I mean,
I've never had it to that extent. I was in the woods one day and I just got that heebie jeebie hair on the back of my neck. I'm being watched.
yeah.
Looked all around me. I was taping at the time. Looked all around me. Couldn't see nothing. Didn't hear nothing moving either. And it was one of them. All of a sudden, even the crows stopping and being out in the woods. Crows will give you away when nothing else will. Everything stopped. I was like, all right,
Now,
I'm done. I'm getting out of here. And
now
all
I
the
was
way up through there, I got the distinct feeling something was following me. And I even pulled the old Indian trick. I had my Arkansas toothpick, Jim Bowie buck knife, 9-inch blade on it, stainless steel. I pulled it out and was looking in the reflection of it over my shoulders and stuff, trying to see if I could see anything coming up behind me. Nothing. And that's one of them times, like you said, I've never been so glad to get out of the woods in my life.
The first time I think that's happened. Now, this is January or February 1982. And I'm I'm on a dirt road south of town with female companionship. Won't go any further there, but I remember it was, really windy, really cold. And for some reason, I started something caught my ear. And it sounded like there were muffled voices or whispers. I couldn't make out any words, but I'm like, huh. And then she raises up and says, "What's that?" She was really scared. And then split second later, I was scared and we bolted out of there. But that was another, one of those experiences. I look back and like, what the heck was that?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly that's, another, case incident of being hit with the infrasound.
Could be. I mean, infrasound's one of those fields. I'll tell people all the time, I'm no expert. I'm no technician. I'm no authority. And I've read a little bit about it, enough to know the basics. But from what I've read, not even the experts really know a whole lot about it as far as how it works and how it can affect us. They know some, but it's still a fairly wide open field.
Yes. And they can send sound waves and vibrations through mountains with that ultra low frequency, whatever it is we suspect they use. Something we can't hear.
Yeah. Well, we know sound and sight both. There's upper and lower that we can't see and we can't hear. Just like the rainbow supposedly only got 7 colors. It's 7 colors we can see.
Right.
In our spectrum.
Yeah, visible spectrum.
Yeah. The same thing with audio. Well, we'll pause right there a minute after those two stories. We got 3 watchers right now. See if anybody wants to leave a comment or question, or if nothing else, just throw something there. I put up a test comment just to see if it was working. Anybody else wants to throw one up there and let me know? Other people can comment if they want to. We have a problem with that for some reason. People will be watching and can't comment. I've got the group Facebook open. I've got YouTube open. I've got my Messenger open and public Facebook open in different tabs. So if anybody wants to get a question or comment to us, throw it on any of the above and I'll get it one way or the other. Man, sometimes people just want to listen. So, well, I mean, if you listen to the popular podcasts and stuff, it's nothing unusual. A lot of witnesses never see anything. It's the feelings, the noises, the atmosphere, or whatever you want to call it, of the area. Like I said, the one thing I remember is even the crows stopped that particular time. And I've had that happen several times. Like I said, anybody know any kind of hunter or fisherman No, crows will alert. They will follow you from spot to spot and make an ungodly racket and
Mm-hmm.
let everything else in the woods know exactly where you are. They can
Yeah.
ruin a hunt. And that just, like I said, everything else, when the crows stopped, I was like, all right, it's time to get out of Dodge. Because
Well, going
apparently
back,
there's something around here that they're more afraid of than they are me.
yes, yeah. Getting back to that incident at the creek, one thing I neglected to mention is that it was December, so there's no insects. But I remember there were no bird sounds. I mean, there was a breeze. The tops of the trees were swaying, but there were no birds. I mean, just the only sound I could hear was my steps and whatever was off to my left making steps. No crows, no nothing. That was eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely eerie.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, that dead silence it's not natural. Nature
No.
makes noises.
Yes.
And I got one, not really an official report, but a guy I went to high school with, known him most of my life. He's an avid hunter and he shed hunts. So he goes deep in the thick woolly bully of it looking for sheds.
Uh-huh.
He said one afternoon, this particular time, I think he said he was turkey hunting. He said, but it was right around dusk, right around sundown, and he heard a roar. He said, I've never heard anything before like it. I've never heard anything else like it since. But the verbiage he used to describe what happened after, he said, it was like even the wind stopped.
Huh.
He
That's
said, I'm not saying it was Bigfoot. He said, I'm telling you, I didn't stick around and find out.
speaking
And
of another,
don't blame him. What's
friend of
that?
mine, uh, of not, an experience of everything going quiet and things like that. A friend of mine lived, he grew up in the town of Russell, which is about 5 miles from where I'm sitting. And he was home alone one night. He's about 14, I think he said. So this would be 1977. And, I guess he was, in bed and he heard something. There was a creek behind his house. I think he said about 50 feet or so, or stream or something like that. But he heard something walking around in circles like a dog. You know how a dog will make circles
Mm-hmm.
before it lays down?
Yeah.
Are we here? Back?
Yeah, we're yeah, I understand what you're talking about with the dog. Yeah,
Yeah. And
I
he
thought
said that
maybe it froze
everything,
up on us too for a second.
yeah, he said everything went dead quiet. No bugs, no birds, anything. And, he was getting scared. So he was going to go get a gun. I think it was a shotgun. And he said as soon as his foot touched the floor, he heard it take off and shoot out through the woods, whatever it was. But
Now
that,
that's one of those things to me. That's a creepy willy given moment because that implies that whatever it was standing or sitting still, waiting on him to make a move.
yeah, just,
Maybe my mind's filling in too many details there, but
yeah, I mean, as soon as his foot, he said, as soon as his foot touched the floor, he heard it take off. So I don't know if, maybe that, whatever it was, didn't know he was there and heard a noise and he took off. But
could be. Uh, like I said, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but like I said, it almost gives me the sense of premeditated intention or something. Like it was
yeah,
trying to either not be noticed or waiting on him to make a move.
yeah, gauging his
Which,
reaction.
yeah, that'd be a good way to put it. And that goes beyond most natural animals.
Right.
A deer is not going to sit there and wait for you to make the next move. A bear is probably not going to do it. A big cat, maybe. They're more of a stalker predator, but still doesn't really fit whatever you want to call it, their behavior patterns, or
Yeah. I mean, that's again everything going dead quiet, and that's just
yeah, that
a very strange things that I've heard from other people and podcasts and so on and so forth. It's just scary to me.
yeah, and just like with the whole premeditated thing, bugs and stuff don't stop on a bear or
No,
coyote or deer or person for that matter. The bugs and birds and stuff don't stop.
no.
Mm,
Anyway, touching back on when I started talking to people now, I'm going to go in chronological order from the earliest sighting, and just kind of bring you up to maybe present day.
okay,
But the earliest sighting, this would be late 50s into early mid 60s. A girl a couple years younger than me told me that her grandfather worked at they were logging that area at the time. They'd since stopped, but he was on his way to one of the logging camps, and he rounded a curve, and there was one standing right there in the middle of the road. This is around what's called Henry Gray Wildlife Management Area, also locally known as Hurricane Lake. But he rounded the curve, and one was just standing there in the road. I think he said around 8, 9 feet tall, black. Said it smelled real bad, and they looked at each other a few seconds, and he got really scared, and then it just walked back in the woods. And she said that it was several years before he ever told anyone what he saw, because for the obvious reason, if you see something like that, you're a nutcase.
oh yeah, and
Now
that's
the
one of the
next,
type of reports I love. Is that previous generation, I'm thinking this guy would be either would he be a Vietnam generation or a World War II generation?
I'm thinking that guy probably maybe World War II, Korean War. He's since passed away.
Yeah, the AKA the greatest generation. Those are the
Yes,
generations I love reports from witness because guys like that tended to be no nonsense. They're not going to make up a Bigfoot story of all
no,
things.
no,
And that's what 99 out of 100 witnesses, I say, why on God's green earth would you make up, of all things, a Bigfoot report experience?
yeah,
Because, like you
especially
said,
with it.
people are just going to look at you. You're
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah,
Why would you do that to yourself? I mean, but especially that generation, you just didn't pull that kind of malarkey.
no, no, you just didn't do that.
No.
The next, the next sighting would be this is 1969 at the lake here in town, and a lady was driving over there to the spillway of the lake, and there was like a little camping picnic area off to the right, and she looked over, and there was one standing there. She said, I believe reddish brown hair, male, about 8 feet tall. And I think she turned around and left. I mean, I'm cutting the end in it, but that she saw it, but she at that time was not aware of the Patterson Gimlin film, and the Boggy Creek movie was yet to come out, maybe 2, 3 years later. And she didn't mention it for years because she had no idea what she was looking at.
Well, that's another common thread through reports of people say I had no idea what it was. I, did, I didn't know anything about Bigfoot, especially, like I said, from past generations. It brings to mind, I literally have one neighbor, my mother mentioned it to him. She said something about what I do and what I'm into. And
Mm-hmm.
he claimed, at least, to never, and this is a month or so ago, never have heard of Bigfoot. And I
Huh.
told Mom, I said, at that point, his age, I find that almost hard to believe. You think you heard mention of it somewhere, but he swears up and down, I've never heard. And he was an older gentleman. He was just flabbergasted. Half man, half ape, woolly booger creature, running
Yeah.
around in the woods. I never heard of it.
And it's,
Like I said,
well,
it blew my mind for a man. This guy's in his 70s, maybe early 80s. And it just blew my mind when he said, I've never heard of it. But
Well,
like I said,
I
that's
guess
a lot of reports.
some people, I guess, can just go through life and not hear such things or pay it any mind, I guess, but kind of hard to believe.
If you think of nothing else, you've seen a Jack Link's commercial or something.
Yeah. Now, the next incident,
But
there wasn't a sighting, but it's very interesting. This was around 1971, and her mother had, or it was her younger sister, and her mother had went to a neighbor's place. The lady was going to cut their mother's hair. It was a mobile home, and somewhere during their time there, something landed on top of the mobile home, just bam. And she told me that they all freaked out and they heard it hop off and take off running. I think she said it made some sort of sounds, but she couldn't remember because, we're going back to 1971. So, maybe a few details aren't easy to recall. And whatever it was, it tore a wide swath through the brush, but said it also, what seemed like after eternity, they peeked out and it left a huge dent on top of it. So, I got to looking around like, what animals in Arkansas could do that? Well, none. I looked at big cats and bears. Now, I can't see a bear actually jumping onto the top of a mobile home. A big cat, okay, maybe something was up there and it was after it, a squirrel. But no, I mean, for something to make that kind of dent would have to weigh more than either of those, the way she
yeah,
described it.
that is interesting because that makes me think you hear a lot of the rooftop walking type report stories.
Yeah.
And like you said, not too many natural animals are going to jump on top of a mobile home. But
Yeah.
the
And
thing
they're
that
not
really always
capable of
sticks
it.
in my head, yeah, even if they could, they can't. But or even if they would, they can't. But something that sticks in my head when I think of a Sasquatch, even a juvenile, you're probably looking at least a 300 or 400 pound creature
At
from
least.
report from all. So these must be some fairly sturdy roofs and ceilings because if it was an adult, you got a 10 foot, 8 to 10 foot tall, 6 to 1,000 pound creature stomping around on your roof. I'm surprised his foot ain't coming through. Depending on what your roof's made of, but like you
Right.
said, if one just jumped on it and made a dent like that, there's
No,
one up there pacing backwards and forth. Like I
yeah,
said, I'm
that's
surprised.
as juvenile behavior.
Yeah,
Probably
there's
a
a lot of
juvenile just
things.
out goofing off.
I've wondered about that about a few different things that get reported off, like the vehicles. All the near misses were if the creature just stood still in the bush for another 10 seconds, the car had passed, and it could have took its leisurely time crossing the road,
Right.
but it ran right in front of the car instead.
Yeah. Just having fun or, freaking out
That
the humans.
reminds me of the old juvenile game playing chicken.
Yes. That's good analogy right there.
And another thing, you hear all these people, whether it be houses, mobile homes, tents, vehicles, RVs getting slapped and stuff.
Well, I
Counting
can tell
cool.
you, I think
How,
my house got slapped here August of 2018.
yeah.
There was really bad. I mean, the worst lightning I've ever seen in Arkansas in my entire life. And so I have everything unplugged. I've got my phone on and I'm playing a game or something, just waiting for this stuff to pass. And then off to my right, and I could tell it was high up, there was this loud bam. And I thought, oh crap. Oh crap. A tree had hit it.
Mm-hmm.
See, there was no corresponding or preceding flash of lightning or clap of thunder. It was like a 4 or 5 second gap. There wasn't, and that's when I heard it. And when the storm got a little, far enough away that I, thought, oh, okay, I'll chance and see what happened. Ran around the front. All I had was a flashlight on my smartphone, and I didn't see anything in front, but I didn't go around behind the house because the street light, the house blocked it, so it's pitch black back there. I couldn't see much of anything. And that hour, I'm like, if it's something back there, it'll be there in the morning and we'll just address it then. I got up the next morning and looked, nothing. No limbs, no trees, everything looked copacetic. I looked on the ground, see if any limbs, like something had hit the roof and then fell off, nothing. And I didn't think to look for tracks. This is not long before I got into this, so I didn't know to look for tracks. But I mean, if I vibrated, I could feel the vibration. The house vibrated. I vibrated, and I've got there's other people that told me that they've experienced the same thing. One was vacuuming a church, maybe 2 miles as the crow flies from here, and something run alongside, just bam, bam, bam. Said she could hear it over the vacuum cleaner and she could feel it. And another man told me that his wife was home alone one night and said that, something, he knows what it was, ran around the house, just, slapping it, things like that. And I know a couple that occasionally they get sticks and little rocks thrown at their house. And window tapping.
You're preaching to the choir.
Right.
We've had it happen. And just like you, I literally thought a vehicle had struck the house.
Well, one man
was that loud, that hard.
Yeah, he said, well, it could have been a bird. And I'm like, if it were a bird, it would have to be very big and traveling at a high, rate of speed to make a house vibrate.
Yeah.
And if there was, well, say, well, maybe some scavenger picked it up before you saw it. Well, you would still think there'd be a few feathers out there. And there was nothing. Like everything looked A-okay.
Yeah. Well, somebody tried to explain to me, and I ain't going to go into my whole story. We just went through it in my last episode when me and Mom did it together. But somebody tried, a deer jumped and hit your house. I was like, yeah, that would have to be one big deer, and to hit the house that hard, it would probably still be laying in the backyard when I finally went out in the morning. Because it'd probably break its freaking neck hitting the house that hard. But sometimes the explanations are more amazing than the occurrences. It's just like the supernatural, UFOs, everything, swamp gas in Arizona.
Right.
Okay.
Flares from a fighter jet or something.
Yeah. Well, that was always my favorite, swamp gas in Arizona. Really?
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is the nearest swamp to? Not even in Arizona, but to Arizona.
Yeah. There might be some, but maybe up in the mountains, but
few and far between.
Not swamps as we know them in our part of the world.
No. That just boggled my mind when I heard that, really. And like I said, same thing with Sasquatch accounts. People try to explain it off like you said, a bird. A thunderbird, maybe.
Yeah, this thing, it was, no way that was a bird. Absolutely no way.
Well, it's the classic, anybody that has a partial sighting or full on broad daylight sight, you saw a bear.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people above the age of 6 have either seen a bear on TV or been to the zoo and seen one in real life at the very least. They've seen a bear somewhere.
Right.
If I've said this once, I'll say it 100 times.
Hind legs and just take off running through the woods. They don't do that.
They know what a bear looks like. Exactly.
Right. Now the next thing, getting back on track here, was I think 1978 that two guys in my class were out. I think they're out frog gigging, and they come up on one fairly close to that wildlife management area I mentioned. I can't remember many details, but I think they mentioned it had red eyes, and unfortunately, sadly, one of them that had that encounter passed away a few years ago. And the other one I haven't spoken to since high school and don't really know how to, he doesn't do social media, so I don't know how to get a hold of him to see, get his side of the story, even if he'd be willing to talk about it.
Yeah. The red eyes is another common denominator. I mean, well, I don't know if I'd say common. Uh, Now, I did talk to another researcher, Daniel Benoit from the East Coast Bigfoot organization. He said there's like 36 animals that can reflect red eye shine, black bear being
Right.
among.
Hmm.
So, it's perfectly feasible. People do see red eye shine.
Sure.
There's nothing supernatural about it.
Right. You try to, find the most obvious
Yeah.
answer first, before you go looking around, because a friend of mine over in McCrory, we go looking for, Bigfoot tracks, and we have found footprints out by the lake and tree breaks and twists, and it looks like some arches that, it almost, the impression I'm getting from the behavior that's occurred around the lake is that almost like there's a high population of juveniles. So I don't know if it's like a place where they take them to kind of teach them how to fish and watch people or whatever. But house slappings and screams outside windows and things like that. Juvenile behavior. Although there has been that one that was 9 feet tall, and there was another one listed on BFRO that happened in December 2015, and I think that was like 7.5 feet or so tall. So there's obviously some adults there, but it seems like they're just based on the activity. Like a man was out on the lake fishing, and he'd come back and something beat up his tent. I mean, I think he was out there at night. I don't know. Back probably once upon a time that might have been legal or nobody even cared, but he'd come back and something beat up his tent. Sure, it could have been a person, but wasn't nobody else out there that he knew of, no other vehicles or anything. It's just one of those weird things.
Yeah.
Strikes me as juvenile behavior.
It does sound like juvenile. It's almost the equivalent of toilet paper in a house while the
Yeah,
neighbors are gone. I mean,
maybe a little bit more, serious than TP in
yeah.
the house. But yeah, you go beat up a guy's tent. There goes the camping trip.
And my problem with it being people, and 9 times out of 10 of these encounters I hear, that's a good way to get shot.
Yeah,
You
I
go
mean,
beating somebody's tent up in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night, don't let them catch you.
yeah, like who would go running around in a ghillie suit, knowing dang good and well that everybody around here is armed.
Yeah,
Just about everybody has a
exactly.
gun. That's a good way to get shot. So people want to try to write it off as somebody in a ghillie suit. Well, who's going to run around in a ghillie suit mid-July in Arkansas when the heat index is like 115? Nobody I know of, nobody with any sense anyway would. That's it'd be a sure way to die fast from just heat exhaustion, heat stroke.
Yeah, exactly. Same way here in Kentucky. Like you said, everybody and their brothers packing.
Right.
Just and another thing, how many people running around in a ghillie suit are 8 or 9 foot tall?
Yeah. If you look out,
I
when
mean,
they the arm bends and all that, there's no way a human could wear a suit and bend their knees and bend their
exactly,
elbows where they do. I mean, it's just literally physically impossible.
exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as things they do that humans can't.
Right.
From what I've heard, anyway. I was scanning through my different tabs here. We don't have any comments or questions yet. If we want to pause for just a minute and see if everybody wants to jump in there and add anything or ask a question or we still got a couple of people. We've had people watching us the whole time. Just I guess we're mesmerizing them.
Or they're just, like not what they expected, or who knows.
Well, I would think the title will give it a praying and squatching. It's going to have something to do with one or the other, but maybe
Right.
both. But I don't know. Maybe people don't appreciate my sense of humor about it, but like I said, I'm not going to stress out over whether or not people watch or not. I enjoy talking to like-minded individuals about the topic. And if somebody else
Yeah.
wants to listen in, join in, more power to them.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, move along. Well, I guess you can go ahead. Nobody, nothing popped up yet. If you want to go on to whatever you had ready for you next in your timeline there.
Well, that's yeah. I was there's I don't have any sightings, at least Sasquatch sightings, at least from that one on through the 80s. You know, it seems like it was the 90s that people started, that people that were relating me their sightings, that's when they were taking place in the 90s into the 2000s. But I'm not saying that, that there weren't any sightings. I just haven't run across anybody that had Sasquatch sightings. There's been sightings of other cryptids, but we can talk about those another time if you'd like. But we'll just stick with Sasquatch right now. But
Okay.
there's again around the town of Russell, a lady had been feeding the strays, and you know, and then she one night she put some stuff out there, and then just got back to the house and looked back out there and saw one of them out there eating the food, inadvertently gifting them
Yeah.
without
I've heard
really
several
realizing
reports
what they
like
were
that
doing.
too. And my
Yeah,
mom's one of those little old ladies that feeds the strays. And I always
right.
joke with her. I was like, Mom, one of these mornings I want to walk out and Bigfoot's going to be standing out there with the stray cats eating out of the bowl. And when I rip the door off the hinges getting back in the house, you'll know why.
Yeah. Well, there was an incident. There was a Baptist preacher that lived maybe 300-400 yards from me, and his children had pet rabbits. They had them in hutches outside. And said that something looked like it reached through there and punched the screen out and took the rabbits. Bears don't do that. I mean, there'd be a
No.
lot more damage than something just punching through the screen, of a rabbit hutch and just taking the, rabbit out. So that, no sighting, but it's just one of those incidents. Then that was just, like I said, 300, 400 yards from me.
Yeah.
And something more recent, there's a church here in town that on occasions after they had a potluck or what have you, that the dumpster would be turned upside down. Now it's not small; these are big dumpsters.
The
They're
big
just flipped
industrial
upside.
size.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good sized church, pretty good sized congregation. So yeah, you know, and just flipped over, and that's happened. Uh, hard to give a number, but he said it's happened a few times. What's a few? I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5, but that it's actually going on.
Yeah.
And the last incident where that happened, people living nearby said that they heard chatter. The alarm system on in their house went off, and across the street. Now, this is just what was related to me, but they saw something, flat, flying above the ground. I'm guessing 50, 60 feet. It'd have to be at least to clear the trees at the same time. All this was happening. Looked out and saw this thing flying, above the field. And that right there was probably, gosh, a quarter mile from me at most where that happened. Just like, house gets slapped and then that's getting turned over and then people are seeing that. It's a weird area.
So they were, I don't know if implying would be the right word, or attributed to a flying creature of some kind.
Uh, Flying saucer, for lack of a better term.
Oh, okay. My
Now, I
mind,
mean,
I'm stuck on cryptids. My mind was going Thunderbird, but okay.
right? No, it was a UFO apparently, and that's something we can talk about another time. But I've seen about 9 UFOs in my life, about 7 sightings, but 2 of them were multiple. One I saw, and I've got a cousin that was with me this last December when we saw these. That I'll send you the video that I've got of one and let you look at it. But that's something we can talk
Okay.
about another time. But I've heard of the Bigfoot and UFOs being seen together, which who knows what's going on there.
Yeah, I've met Stan Gordon. He's big on the UFO Bigfoot connection. Well, I don't know if he's big on it, but he's written on it extensively. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, or out of
Uh,
Pennsylvania, Stan Gordon.
yeah, okay, I've heard the name, but I couldn't have told you where he was from. But yeah, I have come across that name before.
Yeah, like I said, him. And then there's a few others. The aliens are one of those things, I take that kind of simple Simon approach. That, well, if the real God made them too. I don't know if
Yeah,
they're out there or not, but same with Bigfoot. If they're real, which I wholeheartedly always say I don't believe, I know God made them
right.
too, whatever they are.
Well, I've been
Uh,
sent some game trail photos that you need to look at. I'm not going to discuss them here, but maybe another time. But yeah, few of them you're going to want to see these.
oh, I know a couple other researchers that told me, one right here in Kentucky. I met the researcher. He said there's one gentleman that's got a game cam trail. He said it's the best picture anybody could ever ask for. He said it's, if not right up there with the Patterson film, close to it. He said he will not come off of it. Well, he said we've offered him decently substantial amounts of money. He said the guy will not come off that footage.
Scared.
Yeah, makes you wonder if somebody hadn't put the fear in him.
That's what I'm thinking. Did you ever listen to Brenton Solon's podcasts?
Brett and Son, what was the name of it?
Oh, gosh, I can't remember
I
the name
listened
of
to
it.
so many.
Right. Well, he was also out of Kentucky, and sadly, he passed away in November of 2019. But he talked about coming out to his car. He had cameras set up everywhere, and they confiscated all of his SD cards, all of his,
Mhm.
all the cards that he had collected. He went out there to replace them, and he came out there. They confiscated them.
Huh.
So, and yeah, it's just one of those things. Like they don't want anybody, letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, I know I saw an article a couple months ago, and I want to say it was in one of the plain states, Wisconsin, Illinois, somewhere, where they were trying to crack down on trail cams, where people could put them and how they could use them,
That's weird.
and of course I saw it in the Bigfoot group, and everybody immediately jumped on. They don't want us to see what's out there, and the more trail cams are out there, the more likely you are to see what's out there.
True.
Which uh, I don't see how they can tell people what they can and can't do with a camera on their own private property. Public property is one thing, but when you start
Right.
trying to tell you what you can do with your camera on your property, that's kind of
Yeah.
crossing the line.
Yeah. It does.
Which that article might have been skewed because being written in a Bigfoot research group. I mean, might have
Hmm.
been kind of skewed because sometimes everybody's not really not out to get you.
Right.
And then again, they could be perfectly legitimate. They could be right. They could be trying to shut them down to keep them from certain areas, at least public areas where they, know these creatures are at. They don't want people putting cameras out there. I just,
Makes sense.
what you mentioned there brought it to mind with the cameras.
Yeah, but when they start telling people no, you can't point them this direction or that direction. Well, why?
Exactly.
What's out there?
You just quadruple my interest in pointing at that direction.
Exactly.
If you'd left me alone, I'd have probably had the camera pointed some other direction and never thought about it. But now,
But since you brought it up, I'm going to have
yeah,
3 or 4 pointed that way.
yeah. Uh, And I'm like we was talking before we went live. Apparently, I'm not big time enough to get the Men in Black's attention, and I hope I keep it that way.
Yeah, that's me. I don't want them people, knocking on my door.
Yeah. Which who knows? I mean, if I go out and check my trail cams here in a couple of days, and they got something amazing on them, I mean, how would you go about it getting it out there without them people, whoever them people may actually be, getting to you
Well,
before you could get your information out there?
well, depends on how fast you can get it to a computer on phone and internet connection and upload it to YouTube, social media, or whatever. I mean, if you really want to get it out there, then just start flooding it, and make
So
them
you're
have to
kind
go
of like me. You go with the scatter gun
exactly.
approach, just blow it wide open, put it on everything you can slap it on, send it to all your friends, and be like, make sure if something happens to me, this don't disappear with me.
Right. Just think of it as a bunch of
Not, I
salmon
don't want to
going
sound like a
upstream.
paranoid nut, but
Like salmon going upstream, a lot of them's going to get ate by birds or bears, but there'll be some get through.
and I've wondered about that. As far as this day and age, there's more and more cameras, more and more trail cams, more and
Exactly.
more people out there looking. You would think the
Everybody's
law, just the
filming
law
everybody.
of, you would think just the law of odds and averages and percentages. A Boy Scout troop would be waltzing through the woods. Sasquatch crosses the trail 50 yards ahead of them, and there's 15 iPads and smartphones clicking away,
Right. But
or
apparently
one
they're
getting
not
hit
going to
by
do
a
that.
truck. Yeah,
They know. They know
yeah.
they know what cameras are. And they certainly know what guns are.
hmm I just figure sooner or later, I've always heard sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Just
Yes.
pure dumb luck. Somebody would get the money shot, so to speak.
Yes. But you have to get it out and get it out fast and put it to a lot of sources.
hmm
If you have Twitter, tweet it out. At least hopefully some other people start getting screen captures of it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's one of the things in the back of my mind. I've always wondered how would everybody else go about it? Because like I said, I'm like you. I'd go with the scatter gun and offensive, just like we said earlier, pray and spray and hope something
Yeah.
sticks up.
Yeah. Pray and spray, just, start throwing out the rounds, if you
Yep.
had to.
Do you have any more on your timeline you wanted to share with us? Or
2002, a girl was out with her boyfriend one night, and he had stopped and relieved himself, and she was just looking to the right. It was in summertime. This creek bed, it was dry at the time, and she saw one take just one step to go across like a 20-foot wide or so, 30-foot wide creek bed, and she said that thing was 10 or 11 feet tall. And that's just another one that's just one of those real quick, looked over there, bam, there it was. Didn't recall
that's
no smell or anything like that. It's just like, what there it was, and
mhm.
there it wasn't.
That's a large percentage of reports. I mean, 9 out of 10 people wasn't looking for Bigfoot when they found him.
Right. And the majority of the sightings here are at nighttime, but the two daytime sightings were by single individuals. And I've heard and read that around 80 to 90% of full body daytime sightings are by solitary females or females with small kids. So that girl's grandfather that saw that one staying in the middle of the road is kind of one of those rare occurrences where there was a male that actually had a full body daytime sighting.
hmm Uh, well, not just daytime. I mean, they seem to have some kind of, I don't know if attraction's the right word, towards females and children. As
Yeah,
you read,
yeah,
listen to reports and stuff.
Right.
And
I
first,
mean,
the kind of sinister part of that is the whole looking in windows, tapping on windows. That
you know, that,
almost always involves a child.
as a matter
I'd
of
say
fact,
95% of the time.
as a matter of fact, that you mentioned that this would be around 1970 or 71. My cousin, who was 4 years old at the time, uh, they were living in some apartments, south part of town, and I can't recall if he actually saw, but something smashed through his bedroom window. And he remembers running in to tell his parents, my aunt and uncle, that a monkey tried to get him. That's one of the more scarier things I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it after? Well, two theories is one. Maybe it was a female that had lost a child, was just trying to grab one, or they were going to go back and have a kid sandwich.
I was getting ready to snack. Yeah. Well, even the whole looking in and reaching in motion, to me, the reports I hear were they're standing outside the window and making some kind of come hither motion,
Yeah,
trying to lure them out.
window tapping. That's another one. That's
Yeah, that just like I just got a chill thinking about it because
Well, my sister lived close to that wildlife management area that I've mentioned several times before, and her husband worked for the railroad, and he worked swing shift. He was gone from like I don't know 2 to midnight or something. She's home alone one night, and all of a sudden there's just this rapid tapping on the windows. Just that's how she described it. Said she got real scared, called the neighbors. They came looking. They came running, but didn't find anything. But that's another one of those creepy occurrences that just that window tapping and being the peeping toms looking in the windows. That's the behaviors that really frighten me.
and that goes beyond animal.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
said, a bear is
yeah.
not going to tap on your window.
No,
Coyotes aren't going to tap on your window.
no,
Big
big cats.
cats aren't going to tap on your window. And they're definitely not going to stand out there and wave to you and try to lure you out.
Right.
I think the only thing creepier than that is the very few reports I've heard on other podcasts where people claim to have heard them actually mimicking
Yes.
calling either them or their pets in a voice, human
Yeah.
speech. I know there's
Yeah.
one episode, if you listen to Sasquatch Chronicles,
Yeah. I've
there's one
listened.
episode on there where the wife said that her husband was, you know, fairly often out in the yard or across the field. I think her name was Susan. Susan! You know, one day she'd home alone. Husbands went to town for whatever or went to work or whatever. And from the woodline, she hears, Susan,
Oh man.
Susan. I'd never, you would have to take the door apart before I would unlock it after that if I was a woman
Oh
alone.
no.
You're
Oh
never getting
god.
that door open again.
Man, that's yeah. That I had forgot about those incidents. I've not heard of anything like that locally,
I haven't
you
heard
know,
anything personally, no.
but I
But like
haven't
I
either.
said, that just gives you the creeps.
Oh yeah, that right there. That's bad intent.
Yeah.
Trying to lure you or calling pets.
I've
You know,
I've only heard one on a podcast of that,
yeah,
and it was
someone trying,
it was Sasquatch Chronicles again. The guy was in Georgia. He was a police officer. This old man and woman lived out in a rural area, and they was having all kinds of trouble. And this one police officer kind of took it upon himself in his free time to investigate, and he ended up finding prints and everything. But one particular thing, they said they had a dog, and it was some kind of small indoor dog, and his name was Chipper or Cracker or something like that. They said this thing would stand outside and tap on the walls of the house. Cracker, Chipper. No,
or
no, thank you, no. That
no,
that
gosh,
crosses a line.
yeah, that's definitely bad intent.
And the police officer, I remember listening to that report. I'm telling somebody else's story here, but he literally told me, he's like, whatever you do when you hear something like that, do not go out.
No. You wouldn't have to
And I'm
tell
that
me
way
that.
with the,
No.
yeah, I'm that way with the whole, like you said, middle of the night slapping the house. I'm not going out there in the dark.
No. Yeah.
I do
Now,
not have a
front of the
death
house, there was
wish.
street light and all that. I mean, there was some light,
Yeah,
but around the back, no. I said, if it's there now, if there's a problem now, it'll be there in the morning.
yeah, exactly.
You know? And so I
I
didn't go
pretty
back.
much consider the night. It's like I tell people, I get out of the woods before the sun goes down. I'll
Yeah.
go out there in the daylight and look around for evidence, but the nighttime belongs to them because I go out by myself. I'm a one man. Mom stays at the house and prays for me, and I'm
I
a
was,
one man crew out there.
now
I'm
you
not
mentioned,
going out there at night.
a nighttime sighting. This was, probably about 15 miles northeast of here. That a guy was out riding his horse one night, and we're starting to go down this hill, and just at a regular pace of the horse walking, but the horse came to a sudden stop, just like that, almost through him.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked down, and he said what he described was a short, hairy man wearing hip waders. What that sounds like to me is that it strikes me is that there was one crouched down. If you think how they crouch
Yeah.
down and how I can see how their legs, I can see where those legs are big. I can see where they could be
Mm-hmm.
mistaken from a distance as hip waders. But that's just that's kind of like one of those times where don't go out after dark, don't go in the
Yeah.
woods.
Well, I know I've talked with other researchers and witnesses, like we were talking earlier, past generations when I was a kid and
Yeah,
generations. If you lived in a rural area, what was the golden rule?
get in
Be in
before.
before dark.
Yep.
I mean, we could run and play in the fields and streams and woods all day. Don't be out in
Hmm.
the yard after dark.
Yeah, those street lights come on. Better be headed back to the house.
Yeah. And now, like I said, that ain't like a just my area thing. That seems to be almost a
Yeah,
nationwide, if not international,
yeah.
past generation golden rule.
Well,
Get in
yeah. I
before
mean,
the sun goes down.
there's always this natural fear of the dark because you can't see,
Yeah.
and there's things out there that can see, in the dark or diminished light. So that you can see that, but yeah, that matter of fact, about a week ago or so, a week and a half ago or so, a man at farms was telling me that there was a gentleman that lived in town of Russell, and he may have been going somewhere, going off on a pipeline, and he needed him to cultivate his beans or whatever he had growing down there.
Mm-hmm.
And he told him, said, whatever you do, be out of there before dark. And he kind of just laughed, like, oh, come on, I'm not afraid of no meth head. And he said, listen to me in a very, serious tone of voice, be out of there before dark. You don't want to be there after dark. So again, there's people, there's a lot more sightings and incidents that go on that we'll ever hear about because people just don't want to talk about it.
Well, I've always been of the opinion, just take hunters and fishermen, for example. If you ask 100 fishermen or hunters, have you seen Bigfoot? Probably 75% or better, no. But if you change the question up a little bit and
Right.
they're honest, you just
Well,
ask
that's
them,
exactly how I approach people. It's like, did you ever see or hear anything odd or something you couldn't explain? And yeah,
exactly.
and people be
And I
more
think it'd be
forthcoming
the
like
opposite.
that.
And
If you go
that's
up there and
it's
say, have you seen a Bigfoot? It's like saying, hey, are you insane? Are you crazy? That's basically
yeah.
saying the same thing.
But like I said, if you flip that question around, whereas I said 75% would say no for uh, Bigfoot, I think you'd probably get close to 95%. Yeah, I've seen or heard, experienced something strange, something I couldn't explain, whether it
You
was
know,
a sight, a noise, a feeling, something.
my cousin was out squirrel hunting. I think they have a
We got
fall
our
squirrel
first
season.
comment here.
Ah,
Arkansas boys, great show, guys. We go on night recon as a team at night. Well, that's a whole
yeah, I
different
know
ballgame
they
when you
do
got a
that.
team.
Hey, and God bless you guys for doing it, but it certainly isn't for me.
Well, like I said, it's a whole different ball game if you got a team to watch your back. But when you're like me, and it's just you and Jesus out there. I got a lot of faith, but the good book also tells me not to tempt my maker. Use wisdom in all things. So there's that thin line between bravery and stupidity. I try not to camp out on the wrong side of it no more than I have to. And going out in the woods at night by myself, knowing what's out there, what I wholeheartedly believe is out there, that would be the wrong side of that line. That would be tempting God. You know, I'm just
Yep.
tired of you taking
Yep.
care of me. I'm going to take it into my own hands here and get it over with.
Yeah. Tempt not the Lord thy God.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a prime example of it for me.
Okay. The lady that had the sighting in 1969 just messaged me, and she told me that she stopped, she couldn't believe what she was seeing, and she just closed her eyes and just shook her head, and she opened her eyes up, and it was gone. So instead of just turning around, going back, which I thought, but no, she
Yeah,
just messaged me and let me know, what happened. So if she's listening, because I sent her this question earlier. So I don't know if it's just responding to the question or if she's actually listening in. If she is, great. Thanks for, giving me that extra information. Much
I
appreciated.
appreciate it as well. And that right there, the whole I blinked and it was gone, closed my eyes and it was
Yeah.
gone. How many reports I'm sure just like me, you've heard exact
Yeah.
almost word
And,
for word.
and to this day, and she lives in city limits and she still, gets windows tapped on, something that like goes up there and slaps the house. I think it's a brick home, or like maybe gets a hammer fist, and they found like twisted tree limbs in their yard. Just that place gets some visits.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, when I was just to confirm what she said, I've read and heard that 100 times. How I blinked and it was gone. And I think that's where a lot of people get into the it disappeared or it cloaked.
Yeah.
And I talked to another researcher who had a real interesting theory about no, it didn't cloak or disappear what it did, but that's I'm not going to blabber his theory to the world. That's his job.
Oh,
Made a
she
lot of
just mentioned
sense.
me that its eyes were red or reddish. The one
Well,
she
here a few
saw.
nights ago, I saw something out in the tree line right across the fence with a yellowish orange, almost not quite red. So yeah, there is red eyeshine,
Yeah.
and it don't necessarily like I was talking earlier. It don't necessarily have to be Bigfoot. There's other animals out there that can produce it as well. But anybody that nothing's got red eyeshine. Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Red and green are the ones that I've heard of. I can't recall off the top of my head if I've heard of anyone ever saying yellow or amber or anything, but it's generally been green or red eye
Well, like
shine.
I said, what I saw, some people, I mean, some people look at red and see red. Some people see orange or amber or yellow.
Right.
Uh, but
Just
this is
depends on
more
how good your
yellowish orange to
color
me.
acuity is.
Yeah, and it's important to let people like her know. Other people have seen exactly, like I said, almost word for word what she said about it. I blinked and it disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the man that saw it last year that crossed the road, second and a half, 2 seconds. It was there and gone.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, we were talking about that here about a month ago, and I told him, I said, the reason those other two cats didn't go across the road, I'm thinking now, is that there was probably another one across the road, kind of like hounds to the hunters,
Yeah.
driving the game.
Mm-hmm.
And those two, they saw there was one up there, so they took off and went uphill. And unfortunately, it got the last one. So,
Well, I mean, there's been other reports of that where they're, like you said, herding game. Want to be
yeah,
chasing a deer, and somebody looks up and there's another one standing behind a tree waiting on the deer to run past or crouch down in the bushes or
yeah,
whatever.
just reach out there, grab it, snap its neck.
And that's borderline human intelligence. I mean, there's other
Yeah.
animals that hunt in packs, and you said wolves come to mind right off the top
Right.
of my head. Coyotes, but
Yes.
still, that's borderline human intelligence right there. Hey, you go up
Yeah.
there and post up. I'm gonna go out here. We're just like duck hunters, I'm gonna flush them out. You be ready. We send the dogs in to flush the ducks out.
Yeah.
Be ready.
Yeah. So it's, trying to think. Well, I think it's not last year, year before. Gal that I went to school with, her dog, she lives, the couple I mentioned earlier that had the rocks and sticks on their house. Well, her dog got out of the car, out of the truck rather, and took off. So, she really loves this dog. So she was out there at night looking for him, and she went down to a lake, and there were some other hunters there, and they hadn't seen it. So she stayed there. They left, and she stayed there, calling for a dog, hoping that it would come to her. And she heard like a series of three wood knocks, one that was down a distance, then one not too far away, and then one behind her. It was like almost like a skirmish line. Knock, knock, knock. All three of them communicated. Said, she got out of there. She left. She was armed, but she still left. And I don't blame anybody.
No, like I said, discretion's the better part of valor.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it has a 45-70, so I think that's the weapon. I mean, it's a pretty good sized gun. So,
mhm.
but still, if there's three of them, even one of them, I'd be real hesitant to shoot unless I had no other choice. But
That's
three of
me.
them, not me.
I'm only. There's Robert Taylor speaking to you.
Hey, Robert.
Can you see the comments when I put them up on the screen?
Yeah, I see him.
Okay.
That's my
Uh,
Bigfoot hunting buddy from McCrory.
yeah, he came on when I had window on for a little while. Uh, what I was gonna say, it would have to be a push come to shove, me or it, or my
Yeah,
dog, or mom, defending the home.
yeah.
But as far as your average encounter where it goes its way and I go mine, I'm gonna let it go. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
taking that
Live and
shot.
let live.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to go out and do any research way off deep in the woods because of all the accounts of they somehow follow you home. They know where you live. I don't want them showing up at my house. So, I'm not going to go poke around in theirs. Now, I will look for like tree breaks and footprints, secondary evidence. And I would like to see one at a distance, but like going and just having a face to face, no, I don't want to do that.
Well, like I said, I believe they're here in this area around our property. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So
like I said, I
probably
don't
around
really
that
have a
time.
choice. Yeah, live and
Right.
let
And
live, and I hope they uphold that agreement.
yeah, well, it's just like I said, my house getting slapped and what happened at the church, and then it's just like another mile down the road from there where that creek is, where I've had those experiences. And as a matter of fact, now I recall that my cousin and a friend of mine, my cousin who we'd went out there together a lot, and a friend of mine and his dad hunted that area, and they both said that they always felt like something was watching them when they were out there. Of course, they didn't mention that to me back then, but now that's like, they're willing to say it. Said, yeah, I always felt like
Yeah.
it was being watched. I'm like,
Oh, that's a whole lot of it. I'm sure you hear it as much as I do. The whole, if I knew now, knew then what I knew now.
yeah. But fortunately, I got out of there
Yeah,
without any harm, but other than the fact that I don't go back down there anymore.
exactly.
For 32 years and I still ain't went back down. I'm not going back down there. Somebody else wants to, okay, but I'm not going to.
More power
That's
to you.
way too
I'll
close to the
pray for
house.
you. Well, that's the only problem I have. All my experiences and evidence I found, we got 7 acres. That's anywhere on that 7 acres is too close to the house. But what are
Yeah,
you going to do?
yeah. Not
Like I said,
much.
I don't think I have what it takes to run them off. I don't really want to push the matter to try it
Right.
because I've heard some horror stories about where people shoot at them or whatever, and things
Yeah, I regret it.
escalate quickly.
No, as far as like going out, like I'm not going to get a hunting permit in Oklahoma and go try to shoot one. No, I'm not. No,
No,
forget that.
Oklahoma. Touching on that, my opinion, Oklahoma's going to get some people killed. Is what's going to happen there,
Yeah, that's my fear there.
and not necessarily by Bigfoot, by each other.
Yeah, because you're going to get some people out there that's going to
You're going
get
to have every
jumpy.
Tom, Dick, and Harry in the country running around
Exactly.
with a high-powered hunting rifle. I'm going to
Um,
get me a Bigfoot.
yep.
And every time a tree snaps or something rustles a bush, the local militia is going to be opening up on it.
Yeah, somebody just walk around. Hey guys, I got the beer, and then get turn
Yeah,
into Swiss cheese. After being hit by 30 rounds.
because that's bad enough around here. I hate to say it, but during deer season, you got the bush shooters. Like I said, every time a bush rustles,
Yeah,
deer. Hey, I'm over here. I'm across the
yeah,
property line and 200 yards from you, but you're still shooting right at us.
yeah, and
Could you not?
unfortunately, that
Could you not?
may attract some people that aren't proficient with weapons or being outdoors, and
Exactly.
it's just a recipe for disaster.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's 100 ways to die in the woods, and only one of them's got to do with Bigfoot.
Yep, death
Um,
by misadventure.
yeah, exactly. A lot of people are going to get hurt. Although I did see one of the groups put up a thing where apparently Oklahoma got such a negative response on that, it's been shot down. It ain't going to
Okay,
happen.
well that's good.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, hopefully somebody out there has got some common sense.
But here's the interesting thing about that I found is that is the first time a government entity, if at least not outright saying yeah they exist, but they believe it enough to issue hunting permits.
Oh, I thought about that too. I was like, that's about as close as we're going to get to disclosure right there, probably.
Exactly. Now, could it be just to make money to sell those
Probably.
licenses? Well, I don't know how many would have went, and how many tags they were going to issue, and how much they were going to cost. But that was interesting. That they're like, okay, well, they give deer hunting permits and so forth. I'm sure. So, and they exist. So, if they're giving Bigfoot hunting permits, is that kind of a backhanded way of
Yeah.
you know what do you say,
You don't
disclosure?
issue permits for something that ain't real.
Yeah. No,
I
they
mean,
don't issue snipe hunting permits.
I was getting ready to say, I haven't heard a single state with legislation for unicorn
Right,
permits.
right. But for
Uh,
that was interesting. That's
yeah,
what really caught my eye about that. It's like, huh.
that thought crossed my mind as well. I was like, well, if you're issuing permits for it, you're more or less admitting that it's out there to hunt. And you might want to put a disclaimer at the bottom of that permit. You realize you're hunting one of the few creatures on earth that'll hunt you back. But
Yeah. The state of Oklahoma assumes no responsibility in your
liability for injury or
liability of
death
your
due to,
exactly
yeah.
due
In
to
other words,
whatever
this ain't
cause.
coming back on us.
In perpetuity throughout the universe.
Yeah,
If you get killed, we're not to blame.
exactly. And of course, my gallows humor kind of kicked in on. I was like, well, looks like to me this is God or Mother Nature's way of thinning the herd, not necessarily the Bigfoot herd.
Right.
Uh, well, do you have any more encounters or timelines you wanted to add on there?
Not tonight. I need to. I'll assemble some notes and get back with you and be a little bit
Okay.
better prepared this next time. But yeah, if you want me back, yeah, I've got a lot more stuff to tell you.
Oh yeah, I'd be glad to have you back. Like I said, I got a couple other guests maybe lined up I think I got a couple of shows I'm supposed to be on. At least one coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So may not be next week or the next, but maybe a month down the road at the most.
Just whenever you need,
Yeah,
need a warm body to fill in a spot,
yeah. Well, if you don't care what a hour and 20 minutes, I always got a couple of questions I throw at every guest. They ain't
Okay.
nothing earth shattering. First one, just from your experience, your research, what do you think Bigfoot is? I kind of hijacked that one from Wes Germer and Sasquatch Chronicles, but it's a fair
Well,
question, I think.
my belief is, or at least what I strongly lean towards the Nephilim theory put forth by Scott Carpenter. I mean, that's what I lean to. I mean, I understand that there's many schools of thought as to what they are or are not. That's what I lean to, but nobody really knows. I mean, we're all just
No,
speculating and guessing right now. But that's, if I'd be pinned down on something, there it is.
no, I'm not pinning anybody down on anything. Like I said, they're all opinions. It's what
Right.
you think, what I think. None of us are right, none of us are wrong until we got
Exactly.
one
Everybody's
living or
right.
dead.
Everybody's wrong.
Like I tell people, I'll tell you what I think and I'll give you my opinion. I won't tell you what you think and I won't
Yeah,
give you your
exactly.
opinion.
I
All
mean,
right.
other people have
Yeah.
different opinions, and I don't give them a hard time about it. I mean, there's a lot of, as there's a lot of people that fight over this topic, and I'm not going to be one of them.
No. Like I told one of my guests, only so many hours in a day, and I'm not going to waste one of them arguing with people.
Right.
And like I've always said, it's something more people need to say in the cryptid community. I don't know. I could
Yeah.
be wrong,
Right.
but I
Um.
lean towards the same thing as you do. The
Uh huh.
Nephilim. I believe they're descendants or hybrids of the Nephilim, not the
Yeah.
Nephilim themselves.
Or some or some tinkering
Yeah,
on their behalf or from their hand, whatever.
yeah. All right. Well, my other one, we kind of touched on it earlier. We breezed over it when we talked about if you ask somebody what's the strangest thing you've ever seen or heard or experienced out there, not Bigfoot, just anything else.
Are you talking about in the woods or just anywhere under any circumstance?
That's entirely up to you. Whatever you want to share. It can be in the woods or out of the woods or both or none of
Well,
the above or
this is 2012, and I used to like walking after dark. I don't do that anymore, obvious reasons. Now I'm about a tenth of a mile from the house, and some sirens go off, and down the road, off it would be to my right, which would be north. I hear a pack of dogs, whatever, coyotes, whatever. They start yipping whenever a siren goes off. Well, I'm walking down the street, the sirens quit, but they're still carrying on. Now, as I'm walking down the street, I realize that they're actually keeping pace with me. They're going parallel. I'm like, uh-oh. I didn't have any weapons on me or anything. And as I'm walking down the street, they're making a noise. So I cut across the lot to get to the house. And, I live next door, maybe about 150 feet from where I grew up. And my mother still lives there. And, I've got the key out and I'm headed towards the door. I mean, like, I'm getting pretty worried here. And then the motion sensor light on her back door pops on and everything goes quiet. I didn't see what it was. And from the angle that I saw this light go on, it had to have been something that was up behind her house that was coming up that set it off because I could see the rest of the backyard. That was the one area I didn't see. So I'm thinking something was sneaking up behind the house. Could have been a coyote. Could have been a big dog. Who knows? But
hmm.
that's, offhand, I'd say that's one of the creepiest things that's ever happened to me. I've seen apparitions. I've seen stuff move on its own. That's also pretty creepy too. So
That's interesting. Like I said, sometimes it's worse when you don't see it and don't know.
exactly, because your mind can really start, playing
Oh
tricks
yeah,
and start. But
your own mind and imagination will fill in something probably worse than the reality.
yeah, but the way they were keeping, they were pacing me, keeping,
Hmm.
parallel to me. Because on the right there's houses, but behind it there's a wooded area.
Hmm.
So they could come out from anywhere from behind those houses or the brush or whatever. They could, if there was something out there hunting me, it could have been on me in pretty short order before I'd had a chance to get to safety.
Oh yeah.
Because off to the left is an open field, and there's nothing, no place. I'm, at the time I was, 50 years old. I'm 58 now. Be 59 next month, and then I wasn't about to outrun anything, and I dang sure ain't going to now. So
Hmm.
that again, that one scared me.
Well, if it's any of the things we've talked about, you're not going to. You could be Jesse Owens and you're not going to outrun it. But
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have ran faster than I would have been normally capable of, but
oh yeah,
fast enough to outrun some predator. No, not that fast.
I always say I've got two top speeds: my normal top speed and my being chased top speed.
Yes, if
The
there would have been a
second's
tree to
considerably
climb
quicker.
up, I would have went up a tree. But the only thing I could have got close to was a light pole, and there no way I was going to be able to climb up that. So
Yeah. All right. Well, we still got a couple of viewers. I think probably Robert and Arkansas boys. I'll give them. You don't care. I'll give them one last chance. Any questions or comments before we sign off here? Give them a minute or two. Just and nothing else, throw an exclamation point up there or something. Let me know you're typing. If anybody wants to jump in, because I know last episode, as soon as I signed off and hit the end broadcast, the Arkansas boys popped a question up literally within 5 seconds of me hitting the button.
just got to work on the timing, I guess.
Yep.
And thank you for allowing me to be on the show. This is the very first time I've ever done anything like this, and I'll be a bit better prepared next time.
Oh, you did fine. Like I said, I'm by no means a professional podcaster. It ain't like I'm Sasquatch Chronicles or Bobo and Cliff with the Bigfoot and Beyond or something like that, where I'm sitting here in an actual studio. I mean,
Right.
I'm a guy with a laptop, essentially.
I'm a guy with a smartphone right now, so
But like I said, it's always interesting to talk to like minded people. I've
it
enjoyed
is.
it.
I have too. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You have a good one. God bless you. Don't look like anybody's going to jump on here. So we're closing right on an hour and a half. Arkansas
Okay.
boys said they're all there. They are. They said all good. Have a good night.
Yeah. Y'all
So
too.
yep,
See you
y'all
next
have a
time.
good. We'll be playing for Wendell and his mom and his family and
Yes.
all that where she had the stroke and pray for her later tonight. I always pray before I get on here, Lord, let them see you through me. And in the back of my mind, I'm Lord, don't let me get on there and make a fool out of myself.
Yeah. Me too.
Uh, well, like I said, have a good one. God bless. Kate, thank you enough for being on.
Okay.
Really
Back at you.
enjoyed it. I'll post this to a few of the groups and stuff. Sometimes we have uh, people that get to watch it live, they'll jump on the replay. You'll get questions there or something.
Yeah. And I'll send the link on to some of my friends as well.
All righty. Like I said, have a good one, man. God bless. Thank you much.
Same to you.
Everybody
Good
out
night.
there watching, God bless you. Have a good one.